Hi everyone. Please ask anything, anytime. That's what we're here for. It's literally the whole point of this, is for any questions that anybody has. How do I, okay, I think that's, hi, oh great. Neve, is that right? I hope that's how I say your name, Neve. Great, cool, hi. That's exciting, my first hello. Woo, I'm hot. Is anyone else hot? How's the weather where everybody is? Hi everyone. Oh, cool, this is so nice. I think maybe I'll wait in case a few more people join. Yeah, it's really hot. Hi. I wore this jacket to be sort of smart, but it's hot. I'm sweating. So bear with me. Sorry to hear you guys a bit further north. It's a bit cloudy. It is incredible. I'm sorry to ask about the weather, but it affects our lives daily. I think we're obsessed with it because it changes like minute to minute. Anyway. Yeah, I bet it's cold. Sunny in Amsterdam, cool. Yep. Quite a lot of sunshine over here. I just had a really delicious breakfast, late. I was meant to make it myself, but in the end I actually asked my housemate to make it because I was getting nervous about this. So I was not concentrating on the eggs. I think it might be good to kick off with any questions, I suppose. We could sort of, I have not done this before. I've got all these little windows open, panelists, the chat, and the Q&A. Okay. I'll see if anyone else is going to join, and then I'll just say a bit about myself, obviously, before anybody. Thanks, Emily. I'm very excited too. Yeah, okay, I'll wait another couple of minutes. Anyone got anything they feel like sharing on the chat? Just get it off your chest. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling in general? Imagine if it was this, like just this, guys, me just staring, saying nothing. I promise I'm not going to waste your time. Oh, first day of school holidays. Yeah, cool. That's so exciting. Oh, great. Holidays are being booked. Yeah, so Kathy is asking, did I write Capital? The podcast, and is that what you mean? So I was involved in a podcast with a great group of people, Freddie Cyborn, Matilda Winneck, Adam Lawrence, Liam Williams, and Ben and Adam. Well, I've already said Ben and Adam. I co-wrote it, but not a huge amount. Did a lot of the improv in that podcast. This is specifically for Kathy. So wrote a little bit of it, but not a lot. It was mainly thought up by those guys. I'm finding it really hard to get used to the idea that you actually are everyone. Okay. All right. Well, I've got a few questions coming in. So what I think I should do is maybe say a bit about myself first, so that those of you that don't know who I am, but are interested in hearing from alumni of BYMT might kind of want to know, basically. In case you're thinking, who the hell are you? So my name is Charlotte Ritchie, and I'm an actor. I'm working at the moment mainly in kind of TV stuff, a lot of TV comedy. And yeah, but I attended a BYMT, it was called YMT UK at the time. I think it was the first course that they organised. It was a studio course, and it was in 2004, I think, or 2005. My friend, actually, I just got in touch with her to send me photos from the course. Oh my goodness, I haven't looked back on that time. So, I mean, heady days, being 14, 15. So I did a studio course, which was kind of a residential course where we improvised a musical, which is, you were born in 2004. All right. Okay. Neve? You're making me feel very ancient. So I joined the course then as the company was really getting started, and then I did a show called Red Hunter the next year. And it's been really lovely actually going back and looking at some photos and thinking back to some of the people that I knew there, many of whom I keep kind of bumping into over the last 10 years that I've been working as an actor. And yeah, it's really nice. I have such fond memories of these courses. Anyway, so then I joined, I got an agent at about 15, which was a bit of a chance thing, really. I met somebody who was kind of doing a bit of a open casting for a short film, and was like desperately looking for a 15-year-old girl for this part. And she actually had met my mum, and then I went into the audition having not really done anything except for these courses. I managed to get the part, and then got an agent from that short film. So really lucky to get that. But then I kind of took a bit of a side route, and I went in. I auditioned for a kind of classical girl group I was having singing lessons at the time at school, and my teacher had heard that they were auditioning for this group that ended up being called All Angels, and it was like a classical crossover group. So I ended up doing that instead of doing much acting, to be honest, until I was about 21. So I performed and recorded in that group for about 6 years, which was amazing. And to have a kind of full proper job at like 17 was pretty incredible. But I did that instead of acting, basically, and did the odd bits. And I think I was still going to auditions a lot during that time, but I wasn't really necessarily getting a whole load of them. But I was busy doing other stuff, so it kind of felt great. I could kind of do that really slowly. And then I went to uni. I went to university in Bristol when I was 19, and I studied English and drama there. That was, I guess, because in my mind, I was always like very trepidatious about the possibility of being an actor kind of full time. And then I came out of uni and I was like, right, I'm going to give this a year. I'm going to try. I've been doing this slowly for a few years, and I'm going to really go for it. And I was so lucky. I got a part in a show called Fresh Meat, which is a comedy drama on Channel 4. And that basically was incredible. I think quite life-changing thing, and ended up doing, interestingly, I had an audition the same time for Sweeney Todd, the musical, like the same week. It was like these two incredible auditions. And I remember I just really screwed it up, the Sweeney Todd one. I was just like very bad. And I remember being devastated. And then this incredible job came up, and it was so strange because I just couldn't comprehend that I'd ever get over that audition. And it was just pretty cool that took me on a different path. And so I've been working basically now as an actor for the last sort of 10 years, I guess, since then. So I'm 30 now, soon to be 31, and that's what I do. So yeah, that's me. That's me. Does anybody? Okay, so we've got some questions. Maybe could come in. I'm sorry if I haven't covered too much. Thank you, Kathy, for saying I don't look a day over 25. But yeah, anybody hit me with some questions. Okay, Alexander has said, are you doing another series of Ghosts, or is it a secret? So we are doing another series of Ghosts. It's coming out very soon. We've done it. We filmed it this Christmas, so you can look forward to that. I'm really glad that you like the show, presumably, unless you're saying, I hope it doesn't come back, I hate it, in which case, sorry. Katie, what are the biggest hurdles you've had to face, and how did you overcome them? Such a good question. I think I'm only realizing this now, but I think the biggest hurdles I've had to overcome is probably not feeling like a bit of an interloper, like not feeling like you shouldn't really be there, and feeling a little bit back-footed. Like, I think if I could do things again, I would push myself to be more creative and more sort of front-footed. I guess what I mean by that is like take a few risks in terms of creating stuff and maybe writing. And I just had I saw people around me being very courageous and kind of making things themselves, and kind of I think that you can have a lot of self-doubt in this, because the industry is very, it can feel very personal. That's the thing. It can feel really, really personal how you do in the industry, like how you get on, and both ways. So I think it's easy to think that when you're doing really well, it's all just because you've just personally sort of got up and been incredible or whatever. But also by the same logic, you then would believe that if you don't get something, it's because you're just not good enough. But I have learned not to take things personally, because it just isn't. Having been on the other side of things, auditioning people, you see how specific these like casting processes can be, and how hard it is. So that's something I would say is to separate myself. The thing I've learned is to separate myself and my worth from the job, basically. What was it like being called the Midwife? So good. I couldn't believe it. I watched the show before I auditioned for it, and I remember I used to watch it with my mum, and I remember saying, I would love to do a job like that. That would be so incredible. And then an audition came up, and I just, I couldn't believe I got to be in it. And then I had to make sure I didn't call everybody by their character names, which is an embarrassing thing to do. You have to play it cool, right? But I didn't. What's your best advice for dealing with rejection or messing up in auditions? Great. Okay, so it sort of is really similar to what I said. Like this is like the fundamental thing that I would want to push about this industry and this job, is that it's so easy to feel like your whole self is bound up in the decisions of other people, especially as an actor, because you go into an audition and you've put in all of these days of work and you put yourself out there, and then you can feel like someone has personally gone to you, no. And it's just not the case that it's a sort of personal judgment on who you are. And every single time I do an audition, like the first series of Fresh Meat that I did, I then had, I think, basically a whole year after that. And I think maybe part of me was like, okay, here we go. Like, I've been in the show, offers are going to be flooding in. And I just wasn't getting really anything. And I found it really hard. And I think part of it was like I had to take it really seriously in terms of like, okay, so basically my dad helped me, was like, you need to make sure you treat auditions like your job, and then the job is the kind of reward at the end. But the work that you put in for auditions has got to be as if it's like a kind of full-time job. So that was helpful. But my advice would be that every time you do an audition, as soon as you leave, you just let it go. You just put it in the bin and you go, maybe I'll get that, but maybe not. And I have to carry on with my day. Making it not the absolute focus of your existence is so important, I think. Sorry, let me just check. Yeah, so I'd say that, because you're going to mess up auditions, and you're going to sing a rubbish note, or you're going to say the wrong line, or you're going to get flustered, or you're just going to not do it the way that you'd rehearsed it hundreds of times, and you're going to leave the room and go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed that up. But it is in the way that you go into the next room and the way that you shrug that off that will mean that you can continuously keep doing that until hopefully the opportunity comes just at the right time. But yeah, that's what I'd say. What would be your best advice for a theatre actor when it comes to acting on screen? So I feel like I have so much admiration for particularly people that do musical theatre, because it's a discipline that I actually don't think I had the stamina for, or necessarily the kind of skill, the vocal skill and stuff like that it takes. But theatre is, again, another, almost like a sort of slightly different, different technique, of course, which is why you're asking the question. I would say that it seems to me, again, I'm really not an expert on this, but it seems to me that there's a scaling down of performances that are on screen. So you have to be so aware of the proximity you have to the camera. It sees so much more than someone does on the 30th row of a theatre. So everything needs to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more subtle, or quite a lot more subtle, depending on the things that you're moving between. And also in terms of the days, like the days that you film it's just completely different. There's something about the continuity of theatres. Like you have 2 hours and you go, and you don't get off that train until the whole thing is finished, and you're like, that's happened. Whereas with film, you have to be ready, and TV, you have to be ready to pick up where you left off with the exact same emotional sort of point or the same energy even though you've had like 2 hours to wait in the middle. So you may stop a scene and refilm it during a kind of very emotional climax, and you have to be able to find your way there with very little warning. You also don't have very much rehearsal time at all. So it's a good lesson in like doing things and then just like, okay, well, that's done and that's in, and we're now moving on, and I have to be okay with that. This is like a recurring thing, is like being as present as you can while you do the audition, while you do the take, and then just letting it go, because it will drive you up the wall if you linger on the things you wish you'd done. Okay, what was the highlight from my, thanks for that question, Neve, sorry. Lucy, what was the highlight from my time on Called the Midwife? It's really hard to choose. I think, well, we went to South Africa, which was pretty incredible. And I had such a good time there. And there's a scene that I did with Helen George and Linda Bassett in this room where I squash a spider with my, oh no, she smells my armpit, and then I squash a spider with the heel of my shoe. It wasn't a real spider, although we did see a tarantula. It was a tame tarantula. It wasn't like crawling around. It was, but it was like meant to be. Anyway, this is not what today's for. That was incredible, because these are two like powerhouse actresses who I got to and get to still hang out with, and it was so funny. And yeah, I loved doing that trip with them. But for me, it was just sitting around at an artist house table with all of these incredible actors. Just being like, how did I get to here? Can I stay? Any tips for writer's block from Sky? I wish I could help you on that, Sky. I don't know. I find writing, I've never written anything. I don't know how people do it. What I've heard from friends of mine that are writers is that it's great to have a sort of routine where you just keep getting up and you have your hours that you write, and you sit and you do that, and you treat it like a kind of proper 9-to-5 job. Sorry, you know what I mean. But I've also heard that lots of people say there's only a certain amount of hours you have in you a day. So I know a really great writer who writes from about 10 till 2, and then that's it. That's how long they write for each day. So then it's just focus time, and then the rest of the time is kind of left by the wayside a bit, maybe wasted. Yeah. What advice do I wish I'd been given when I was younger? I mean, this isn't really specific to acting, but I would say to just be very kind to yourself. And I think it's hard to say that without it sounding kind of empty, but like, it is really true that you need to kind of look after what you want first and foremost, and do things because you love them or because you're excited, rather than do things because you're worried if you don't, you'll be wrong, or not doing anything out of fear, and making sure that you are sort of front-footed and kind of open to everything in a yeah, it's really hard to describe. But like the number one thing is just try not to, people always say this, and I really didn't understand it till recently, but just try not to care what people think, because literally the only thing you can control is what you do, and you'll never ever be able to control other people's actions or what they do. So I sound so cliche, sorry, but I really think that. Boston, oh cool, M. Clark, not sure what your first name is, but hi to Boston. I did some recording with my brother. That's so kind. I don't think we will do anything soon, but I loved it, and I'm really, really glad that you know about it. Let's see, in your singing career, do you have any tips for belting and hitting higher notes? Emily, man, I wish I did. I basically found singing really, really hard. I found the kind of more musical theatre way of singing. So I did more kind of classical stuff, classical crossover, we called it, bit of pop, bit of like classical. And I found it really hard to do musical theatre type ways of singing. I don't mean to like categorize them too much, because there's lots of different thoughts on whether you have like separate voices or whatever. I'm not an expert by any means on vocal training, but yeah, I found it really hard to belt high notes. I'm not the person to tell you, I'm afraid, but I really hope you master that. I never seemed to be able to. It was always very like breathy, hi, Oh my gosh, sorry for doing that. Who is your dream actor to work with? Oh, that's a really tricky one. I'm really sorry, I can't think of anyone right now. There's so many. If I think of a person that I can actually specifically choose, then I'll get back to you on that. Who's yours? Who asked me the question? Sorry, Emily. Who's your dream actor to work with? Let me know. What has been the most exciting or innovative rehearsal process you have had to prepare for a role? Oh, great question. Well, I'll tell you what was hard. I did a play, which was a Christopher Hampton play in London in Trafalgar Studios. And I found it really difficult. It was very, very wordy. And Simon Callow was directing us. I don't know if you guys know who that is. Maybe you do. You can look him up. He's great. And he wanted a really specific way of being, a kind of like floaty way of being. And I found it so hard to do it. And I feel like I sort of went through, like, I just found it really difficult. But there's something about, at the time, I remember thinking, oh no, like this is awful. I'll never get there. And this is just going to be, yeah, just why am I doing this, basically? But the learning process of doing that, it was such a lesson. And you face something and you go, oh my, I'll never be able to do this. Like, this is way beyond my reach. I don't have the skills, I don't have the ability. And listen, some of you may have seen it. Maybe you agree that I didn't get there. But it seemed like I eventually did manage to do like an okay job. And by the end of the 5-month run, I had learned so much. And it was such a good lesson in the really difficult things, the really difficult jobs are the making of you. The difficult auditions, it's like, again, it sounds so cliche, but like, it's genuinely true that if you have a bad audition or a bad job, there's got to be a part of your brain that goes like, ooh, what am I learning from this? Like, how do I better prepare for the next audition? How am I going to make sure that doesn't happen? Or how do I make this so that this works for me? Thanks, Annalisa, for that. Sorry, I didn't quite, I don't know if I answered that question, but Alana Patton, were you sad when you died on Call the Midwife? And did you know that was going to happen? Oh, thank you. That's really nice. So yeah, I was sad. I was so sad. I was so sad. I absolutely adored that show. I did choose to go, but only because I got to a stage where I'd been doing Call the Midwife for 4 years. For those of you that don't know, it's like a period drama on BBC One. Sorry, I mentioned it before and didn't say what it was. It's a period drama on BBC One. It's so brilliant. I love it. I still love it. And I've made the most incredible lifelong friends on that job. But I got to a stage where I felt like I was slightly becoming a bit complacent, and maybe was, I think I just felt like you want to make sure that you're constantly, I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like the right time to go, basically, before I ever took that show for granted. I didn't feel like I was, but I could, I wanted to keep it always feeling a little bit scary. And I never think it's too good to get too comfy in something. But that's just a personal thing. But I was so devastated to go, to be honest. It was such a hard decision. I really loved that show. Incredible. Who are some of your inspirations in the acting theatre world? From Lucy. Oh gosh, there's so many. I'll tell you who I loved watching recently was, I'm so sweaty. I used to adore Green Wing, which was a show that was on, oh my gosh, some of you might have been not born before that was on, but it's a great show. It's on 4OD, all four, sorry. And it's got Tamsin Greig in it. And I remember seeing her in that and thinking she was incredible. She was so funny. It was a kind of doctors, it was a parody of a kind of hospital. And then I saw her, sorry, I'm jiggling this around. And then I saw her in 12th Night over lockdown. I watched the National Theatre and she was so incredible. And that was so inspiring. She played this really dark character, Malvo. Malvolio? No. Oh, this is how well I know my Shakespeare. Not very well. So basically, she just had gone. She's able to straddle the two, the comedy and the sort of real melancholy of the drama of that part in Twelfth Night, and that was really inspiring. And I think people that can kind of reinvent and recreate themselves continuously and straddle the two, the comedy drama, yeah, that was really, really great. Let me see. Emily, Emily, where did I train? So I didn't train anywhere. Well, I had like singing lessons when I was at school, and then I guess we did a lot of singing. I did a lot of training while I was singing in All Angels, that group that I joined when I was about 17, 18. We had lots of great coaches doing that, and I think I learned a lot then. We sang in harmony all the time, and that was incredible training. I count BYMT as one of my major training experiences, even though they were only 2 weeks. I learned so much. The thing I want to say about them is these courses that BYMT offer, is that the specific focus. I was talking to a friend of mine who I met on one of the courses. The thing that's specific to them is the creative element, the devising element, which is so unusual. You're not just taking a blueprinted musical, although that is so much fun, and you learn a lot there. You're not doing that. You're creating something from scratch. So the skills needed to communicate to other people your ideas and to compromise with them and to create something from scratch is like so important, and so something that one of you asked, what would I tell myself? That feeds into that, like to be as creative as possible and try as many things. And I think being a bit afraid of getting things wrong can really set you back. Like if you're too afraid to get it wrong that you don't do it, then you're missing out on so much. So what those courses did was teach me that it is okay to sort of say, well, I've got this idea about this, and have someone be like, I don't really like that much. Can we do this? And you have to go, okay, I can't believe they didn't like my idea. Like, what am I going to do? They probably hate me. And then actually, obviously they don't. They want to make something good together and be collaborative. And sometimes what you suggest doesn't work, and sometimes it does, and you create something together. So that was something that was so important to learn, and still is. Someone asked actually earlier about Capital, which was a podcast I did with some friends of mine, and that was a real learning curve as well. That was only a few years ago. Being around people who were used to pitching ideas and having them sort of people say no to them was like quite a kind of amazing thing to experience, and know that you can survive those types of things. So Neve, yep, top tips for self-taping. Yeah, so white background as much as you can, although apparently other block colors are okay. I don't know for sure. Good light is really important, and making sure, this is something that I think is really helpful, is that if you have multiple people in this scene that you're talking to, even though you're probably going to have one friend or whatever to read with you, yeah, find a good friend who's willing to do this with like no notice. That's a top tip. Or a family member. Thanks to my mum for the multiple self-tapes she's done with me, despite that they've been quite tricky to get through. So what you do is I put crosses on the wall behind me to mark the different characters that I'm speaking to, so that the eye lines kind of match up. I find that helpful. And I would say be very courageous. Like if you're in the middle of like a storm in your self-tape, don't hesitate, kind of really go for it. I think it can be tempting when you're in a very stale environment doing a self-tape to kind of scale back. But I think do the tape as if that is exactly, someone said to me once, do the audition as if someone's going to like roll up the wall behind you and you're going to step on set and they're going to ask you to do it again there. That will be permanently in the film. So get to that level where you would be happy with that being a kind of performance. That's for TV and film. TV, but it can really vary. You're going to have different bits of advice about that, but I would definitely say like kind of make strong and bold decisions about the way you want the scene to go, and who you think the character is, even if it's not quite right. The fact that you've made such a strong choice, I think, will help you kind of get across the real truth of the scene. What does an audition for a screen job look like? Well, yeah, that basically it's quite full on. Like you get the scene sent across, and usually you have like a day or two, maybe 3, to prepare for an audition, and either then you'll put it on tape, you have to get it in by like the 3rd day on tape, or you have to go in. So you have to learn 2 or 3 pages really quickly. That's one thing I'd say practice, like, you know, with any scenes that you have in, like, you know, theatre books, or just you can download so many great scripts from online. There's so many films are online. You can learn scenes, that's really fun, and do them with friends and read them. Getting pretty quick at learning lines is great. And then you go in and you do 2 or 3 takes. They have a camera set up, and you have a casting director reading with you, and they're behind the camera, and you sit in a chair in a room. Sometimes you have like lots of people there, or you just have the casting director, and it can feel very nerve-wracking. But you go in, and the best thing I think would be to have learned everything fully off by heart, so that you really feel like you can play with it. And if then they stop you and say, can you do it like this? Can you do it as if you've, I don't know, imagine this. They give you some direction basically. Then you know it well enough that it's malleable for you to then change your performance completely and kind of do it from a different perspective. So yeah, so I'd say learning things off by heart is really helpful. It's kind of essential. I'm just gonna have some water. Sorry if I'm talking at 100 miles an hour. Okay. So when you were joining your band, did you audition, or was it something you put together with your friends? From Imogen. Oh, sorry. That's not because of your question, Imogen, that's just because I'm hot. Yeah, so I did audition. Yeah, so the guy was putting together a group, a bit like Il Divo. I don't know if any of you remember Il Divo. There was a kind of real rage for classical crossover music, and this guy, Steve Abbott, was going around the country auditioning for essentially choristers, I guess. Although I wasn't that, I did sing classical music. And I remember the audition was in my singing teacher's front room, and Steve sat on the sofa, and he was on his BlackBerry like the whole time that I was singing. And I remember being like, well, this is a waste of my time. Like, this is obviously gone really badly. And so I sang, and then he was like, that was great. And then he left, and I was like, well, I guess that's gone down the drain. And then I got a call saying they'd love me to join this group to do a demo CD. So it was just, but it turned out to be an album. I mean, it was like an incredible thing. But yeah, I don't think I quite understood the scale of it. That was what was quite nice, is that I auditioned for it not quite knowing exactly like how big it might end up being for me in my life. So it kind of took the heat off it. But I wish it had been just organically made with me and my friends, because that's so cool. Emily, Kate Blanchett, Sarah Paulson, cool. Oh, thanks. Of all the characters you have played, which one did you connect to most, and which did you find hardest to play? Well, okay, so that's from Shona. I found it. I did a character called Hannah, who's in a show called Siblings, which was a BBC Three comedy, and I think I found that. I don't know if I connected to that one the most, but I found that the most fun in terms of, she was basically an awful, awful person and had no self-awareness, very, very, very selfish, and very like, it's my way or the highway. I don't think she ever said that. Really bullish person, and I loved that. I found that very fun. And then I did a part recently in a show called Feel Good with Mae Martin, who's an incredible comedian, and written by Joe Hampson. And that I found hard because it felt very naturalistic and very, very close to who I am. And there's something exposing about that, about being very much yourself, even though it's quite a fun thing to do. Like, it's quite a cool way to it wasn't so much of a character at all. It felt very sort of naturalistic. So that was actually really hard. It's sometimes easier, I think, to put yourself fully into a different person. Tips for professionalism in audition and jobs. Oh yeah, that's a great question. Although I wonder if anyone has worked with me will be like, okay, let's hear what she has to say. I would say the thing that I think is the most important thing about this whole industry is like why you want to do this job. like for me, the people I enjoy working with most and the times I've found it most sort of rewarding, and the reason I feel like it's such an amazing job is the collaborative group sort of feel of it. I think as much as possible going into it with a mindset of like, how can we make this a good show? How can we as a group, as a team, work together, like, and be that like, you know, working with the creative team or working with the rest of your cast, or the technical team, the people behind the camera, and like being understanding that you are not just a person who's filling this role. Who I think there can sometimes be a stereotype actually around actors that they're quite self-involved and maybe a bit self-important, but almost all the actors I've worked with are concerned with collaborating, concerned with making sure that everyone is feeling like they're having a good time and that they're making the best work together. And I think if you think like that, you'll have such a good time. So if you go into a casting and you go like, I want to do this because I want to do a good job, but also because like I can see myself working with these people or whatever, like I think that can be quite a helpful mentality. But in terms of professionalism, like just be nice to everybody, and understand that like you're not the most important person there, and that everyone has a really difficult job to do, all that stuff that is sometimes easy to forget, because I think as an actor, like I said, you can be sort of, you're performing, aren't you? So you sort of end up taking up a lot of space or whatever, so which is fine when you're doing it because it's your job to do that. Sorry guys, this is some of this is well, anyway. Have you done any shows on the West End, and if so, how was the audition process? Okay, Alana, I haven't done any show. Oh yes, sorry, I did that show. I did a play at the Trafalgar Studios for 6 months, 5 months, and it was genuinely, that was the one I was mentioning when I found it really hard to get into the character. That was really tough. I found the play really difficult, and the audience responses were some really great and some were not. Like, it seemed to really divide people, and that was really difficult. It takes a lot of resilience. I have so much respect for actors, particularly that continuously for years do West End shows that run for a really long time, to continuously find the enthusiasm and the joy and then the freshness of it is a real skill. And I think once you do find that, it can be so fun, and it is so fun and so exciting. There's a great book called Different Every Night by Mike Alfreds, looking as if it's going to be on my bookshelf. I think it, anyway. It's basically, it's an amazing sort of manual for theatre acting, and kind of, it definitely would be a good resource if anyone's interested in reading it, to kind of understand how you can keep a performance fresh and keep it active every night, and remembering that it's this interaction between the two of you, not just sort of one-way street. But the audition processes are really scary, but like that I don't want that to put you off. Auditions can be really nerve-wracking. So sometimes, particularly when I used to audition for musical theatre, you'd go in and you'd hear the people audition before you, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're so good, well, that's congrats to them, they're off. And then you'd go in and then you'd have this big panel of people, and you can't comprehend how there could be so many people who need to see you. And then you have to have your music prepared, and the pianist plays for you, and you just go. And it is like, I think if you can have a slight sense of humor about it, if you can kind of know that you've just got this 3 minutes and that it's going to go the way that it's going to go. I mean, it's easy for me to say this, but I find it really hard to get into that mindset. But you just kind of go, right, what do I enjoy? What do I love about this song? What do I love about this character? How am I going to enjoy this? How am I going to communicate this to the best of my ability, because I really like it, and I've found something in it that works for me. I think that can be a good sort of from you outwards, rather than worrying immediately, did I like this? Did I point my toe? Why did I point my toe? Things like that. Gosh, sorry, I hope I'm not going too slowly. Let me just check the time. Okay, 20 minutes, all right. Amelie, is that, I said that right? Are there any shows you want to be on in the future? So many. There's loads. But I think, actually, I don't actively think too much about that. I try to keep my perspective like quite small. So when things come in or things that I notice are really good, I kind of go step by step kind of into that. But in terms of like grand thinking, forward thinking, I'm not very good at that. I don't really look very far into the future. So I just hope that the stuff that I do is continuously stuff that I like and is like quite good or very good. That would be my dream, is to just always work on things that I love with people I really like. How do I calm my nerves? Sorry, I'm missing some questions on the other side. I won't forget them. Sorry. So how do I calm my nerves? Oh my gosh, deep breathing. Again, I think it's got to come back to you. I think you have to try and find a way to know that it is you that's in control of this, and that whatever you do, people will make their judgments or not, but you need to have enjoyed and got out of that audition or out of that performance the stuff that you just do it because you love it. I think will set you straight, like will be helpful, because then you can't really go too wrong. Yeah, people say like imagine everybody naked, and I don't think that helps very much, to be honest. It makes me doubly nervous. Right, sorry, I've missed this side of the thread. Favorite role? Oh, I think I've said that. Do I plan on doing any shows in America? I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to, but I do really like being here. This is one thing that I would say is like, when you do this job, I think I find the thing that keeps me steady through the months of auditions and times where you're not working is to have a side of to have the bits in your life that are constant, that you like, that you can go to when you're not working or when you feel like things aren't going your way. If you have months and months where you're not doing the job that you love, i.e. acting or whatever, or you're not getting auditions, you need to have stuff in your life that makes you feel happy, that isn't your job. So I feel I'm lucky, I have nice friends that I live with, and things that I like doing outside of work. I think that having that as a sort of basically making sure that it's not your entire life. Again, what I said at the beginning, that you don't put your entire kind of worth into this job, will help you when things aren't exactly going your way. So the reason I say that is because a lot of the stuff that I love about life is not necessarily all in the job. And so if I was to move to America and do something, I think I'd miss that side of stuff, the side that keeps you a bit steady, stops you going head first. Oh, so Alana said, did you go to an acting or performing arts college? Sorry, I forgot to say, I didn't. So I went to Bristol Uni to study English and drama, and that's partly because, to be like really sort of upfront, I think I always thought the prospect of doing this as a job was going to be really, really hard and not that likely. And I felt like it would be really good to have something I could do that sort of supported me around that. So I had a good sight set on like teaching, and I knew that if I did a degree, then I would be able to do that. And yeah, so that's what I did. I didn't do drama school. In a way I wish I had, because I think the training is incredible, but it's also quite cool that you don't have to do it. Do people ever stop you in the street and recognize you from TV shows? Yes, they do now, but not like loads. Usually actually when I'm quite looking quite ill or like quite tired, it seems to be in the moments when I really wish that nobody knew me, that it's like, hey, yeah, they do. It's a little bit strange, but it is really nice, because you do end up having quite, as long as people say hi, like the best thing is when people say hello, because it'd be like, oh, I liked this show or whatever. But it can be quite strange. I don't know if you ever get used to that. But I get it, yeah. Can I do any accents? How do you learn accents? I can do them, but I don't feel confident doing them. Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not great at them. I'm sure I do feel like I could learn one. I get the impression that with accents, it's really a question of just continuously practicing. And I think the main thing is to try and like hear the shapes of the sounds, as opposed to say the words in the way that you think a person would say it. So if you're doing a Scottish accent, you do it like phonetically, rather than like, oh, a Scottish person would say this like that. You say like, how do they actually say it, and what are the real sounds, and how do I mimic those? And going through kind of vowels and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh yeah, I probably won't get into American politics on this, Kathy, but I hear you so loud and clear. What is something I've learned in quarantine? Well, probably how to be okay with myself. So one thing I've learned is that when you're busy and you're moving around a lot, you can, your moods can change, but maybe you don't notice that much because your external circumstances are changing loads. But when you're on your own, I'm sure a lot of you have found this, that you just have like lots and lots of different mood swings. You find that you can't distract yourself from certain ways of feeling, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I found it's quite good to actually sit with that feeling a little bit. I've also played a lot of PlayStation, so I've learned how to be quite proficient at different challenges on Grand Theft Auto. So that's been really a big learning for me. Let's see, sorry, Maya, what is the best way to find an agent or management for screen or stage? Sorry, I missed that. So the best way, oh, we're almost done. Oh, no, we're not. Sorry, I got the timing wrong. So the best way to find an agent or management, there's lots and lots of different routes. Like I was really lucky to have got this opportunity to be seen by Sam, my agent. She represented someone already in the film, and then saw me and was like, I'm taking on like a young person, would you like to have a go? One of the major routes would be going to drama school, so that you have these shows at the end of you do a kind of showcase at the end, and lots of agents come, and that's a great way, obviously, but that's not necessarily possible for everybody. I want to say there's a really great charity called the Open Door that helps for funding for auditions, for money and training for auditions for drama school, because the cost of auditioning can be really high. So that'd be something to look into if anybody's thinking about that. But in terms of, again, this comes back again to, stop saying again, it comes back to what I was saying about taking risks and being open to being creative and stuff. Like friends of mine who haven't got agents, the sort of drama school route, have written plays collaboratively with friends they've got together at like whatever different ages. I just, as soon as possible, I really would encourage everybody to like get together, even if with like one friend or someone else that is passionate about musical theatre or writing, and write your own scripts, write or improvise, and set up like improvisation classes at school, or just if you have spare time, or like and create any environments that you can where you can make your own stuff. The reason I say this, sorry, is because I have friends who have written things or gone up to with things like BYMT and different youth organisations, gone up to the Edinburgh Festival, or they've written their own plays and applied for funding in ways that you can, if you look it up online, you can apply for funding to take plays and shows up, and agents go to those sorts of festivals like the Edinburgh Festival and theatre festivals like the Vaults Festival in London, and they come and they often are scouting for people. So that's a really great way. The other thing is to write. A friend of mine wrote a sequence of really short scenes and filmed them, just like really low budget, filmed them, put them together in a show reel herself. So got together a few of us to be cast in it, and filmed a series of different scenes that she'd written that showed different elements of her talents. And then she put that in a show reel and sent it around to agents. And you can look up agents online, but also contact BYMT to ask me to kind of recommend any particular agencies if I can. Right, let's see. Okay, so Emily, what's your process of picking and developing a monologue for either an audition or for practice? So most of the time the auditions I do, I get sent the pages beforehand, but I know that with theatre often you have to do a monologue that you pre-prepared. I think the best thing would be to just go online and look at extracts of plays of writers that you think are good, And if you can, if it's not too sort of expensive, is buy the, well, actually, there's basically lots of anthologies of different monologues, but I would have a browse on YouTube or something to get the tone of a writer that you really like. A lot of TV writers that you might like, you might find out that they've written plays in the past. So you just look up someone that you think is good, and then see if you can find some monologue books that include some elements of their work. But developing a monologue is just like, give yourself loads of time, and play around with it. So give yourself a different scenario, a different person that you're talking to. I think to remember that a monologue is never really in a vacuum. It's always for a reason. You're either trying to work something out, or you're trying to speak to somebody, or there's always a sort of direction in which it's going. I think imagine different people that you're talking to, different states of mind. It can be really fun. What was it like working with Matt Berry? Does he speak like he does when he's performing? No, he doesn't speak like that. He's so funny. And yeah, it was really great. I mean, it's that it was quite surreal, because I'd obviously watched him in so many things. But yeah, it was lovely. It was good. I mean, the whole play was like quite an intense time. So we bumped into each other about like last year and lamented how intense it had been. I think because neither of us had done such a long run. Yeah, again, so much respect to people that do that continuously, and I hope I'll do it more. I adored Fresh Meat. John, house full of totally eccentric people, reminded me of university life in Bristol. Oh yeah, maybe some of you guys might be a bit too young to watch this. Perhaps you could catch up on all four. Do you still keep in touch with the rest of the cast? And are they just as wonderfully dysfunctional in real life? Yeah, so the Fresh Meat team are so great. So that was the first job I did. That was where I learned those principles of basically like collaborative ways of working, mutual respect, like being friends with everybody on the floor being like where you film everything from all departments, really understanding that everyone has such an important role to play and that you are one of many cogs in that. I couldn't have had a better group of people to learn with. Kimberly Nixon is an incredible actress, and she taught me all the stuff I didn't know. So that's one thing to know, is that I hadn't really done much filming before I went and did Fresh Meat, which ended up being 4 years of 3 months at a time. And she would tell me, I didn't know what marks were. So they put marks down on the floor with tape to show you where you stand. I didn't know what sides were, which are basically tiny mini scripts that you get that tell you all the scenes you're doing that day. I didn't know that when you film, you do like 8 scenes a day and they're all out of sequence. So you have to remember where you are in the story. I didn't know that how to like start again if I'd messed up. All that stuff I learned on that job. And we are all still in touch. Actually, there was a thread that was revitalized like 2 days ago. I'm hoping to sort of do a group Zoom with them actually, but they're all over the world now. Emily, what was it like working with Lisa? I also want to like caveat that all of the Fresh Meat gang took me under their wing. I mean, Zowie played my sort of best friend in the show, and we became such close friends. I'm so privileged to work with them. I can't believe it. And they're all amazing. Okay. What was it like working with Lisa Kudrow? So cool. So Lisa Kudrow played Phoebe in Friends. In case any of you don't know that, I watched Friends as it came out, when it first came out, and it was like the #1 show. I couldn't believe it. And what was really strange is that nobody mentioned Friends when I was with her. Like, nobody talked about it. So she must have thought, maybe this group of people have never seen this show, Friends, that I was in for 10 years. But it was just everyone was a bit too embarrassed, which was strange. We should have just said it. It was like, I don't know. But she was so humble. I really hate that word, as if she, but she was so low key. She kind of had all of the same, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, she had all of the same hesitations that all actors have. It taught me, no matter what stage you are in your career, no matter how much you've done or that you still have left to do with, you still have the same insecurities. You still go home a bit in the day being like, oh, was that all right? Like, how did I behave? Is everyone thinking that was okay? Like, I wish I'd done it a bit like that. And I couldn't believe that she still had some of those thoughts. And I was like, you've been doing this so long. You're such a pro. So yeah, I think the fact that we're all of us, I'm continuously being like, why did I say it like that? Like, oh, I can't watch that bit. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it was like. Annalisa Marie, what are your top tips for maintaining the stamina to get through grueling schedules? Loads of sleep, loads of water. I think, and a really important thing is like whenever you get a moment, as like exciting as it is to be like on all the time and talking to people, and you can feel like you should be kind of in the mix all the time. I think taking 10 minutes or half an hour out by yourself to have a cup of tea, or like literally sit and close your eyes and breathe, is so helpful to reset yourself. Yeah. And I think understanding that, for example, if you're working all the time, the other sides of your life are going to suffer slightly. You're going to have to, like, you might not be able to call that person back that you want to, or you might not be able to make, like, the one thing I'd say is that when you are working a lot and it's so incredible, you know that it's great, your other sides of your life can be really hard to balance. So I think understanding that you miss out on some stuff. I'm sure a lot of you who are singers will know. Oh, sorry, Kathy, you're 25. I May Destroy You is on your watch list. Good, great. It's amazing. And yeah, so I think just understanding that you only have so much in your tank, that you need to make sure that you're really aware of how you're feeling, so it doesn't just like hit you on the weekend and you've gone like. Ellie, what was it like working on Raised by Wolves? So great. Yeah, I loved it. That cast is, it's such a good show. Have you seen, if any of you haven't seen Raised by Wolves, it was written by Caitlin Moran and her sister, Kaz, and it is really good. Yeah, I love that show. The cast are brilliant. They were so welcoming. I know how it can be to be in a kind of team and new people come in and you have to sort of reset your automatic ways of being but that's so important. And they were really nice and let me in and were really friendly. But it's such a funny show. Oh yeah, Rebecca, the who plays the mum, so good. Yeah, I feel like I haven't said enough about BYMT. I feel like to kind of just re-emphasize basically how great doing courses can be, for like so many reasons. Like, again, another thing, I'm saying a new thing. Meeting people, that doing it with people you've never met, suddenly being thrown into a course where you have to make friends, like that is also such a huge part of this job. Sometimes I'll meet like 150 new people in a year, and they'll be from all over, like different places and different ages, and to be able to just like sort of get involved and just be okay with like lots of different meeting lots of people all the time is a really big appealing part of this job. And I think you learn that on courses like BYMT, making friends in that. It's like the best thing, isn't it, to like create something with another group of people who all like the same stuff. Yeah, if you can really try and get, I wish I'd done more of that at school, creating my own stuff with friends, like writing comedy sketches, parodying stuff that we really liked, writing songs, putting on plays. Like, that's so cool. As much, if you ever have time to do that, just get together a group of friends on a Sunday afternoon and give yourself a theme and improvise it for like an hour. Is a suggestion, but yeah, BYMT kind of brings out that sort of stuff and makes you courageous, I think. Biggest inspiration. Ooh. That's tough. I have actually got quite a few inspiring people, I think, in my life, but they're all sort of friends that have inspired me. I don't know if you'd know them, but the people who I see kind of constantly putting themselves out there, getting set back and keeping going. I mean, again, it sounds so cliche, but that is so cool to do that. What's that? To answer question? Yeah. Answered. Oh, this is really okay. Let's see. No, I won't. I'll embarrass them. Okay. Well, I think that's basically it. Sorry, I've run over by a minute. But thanks so much for tuning in. I hope I've answered some questions usefully. Thanks, everyone. yeah, I'm going to say bye. I think I'm going to get signed off now. So thanks so much for joining. It's really cool.